A continuación, en Poder 97.1, tu hora informativa. Entrevistas e información para nuestra comunidad. Y ahora con ustedes, Ida Pérez.
Buenos días, mi gente de Rochester, y bienvenido a su hora informativa. Mi nombre es Ida Pérez y para mí es un verdadero placer poder estar con ustedes en esta mañana. Su hora informativa es un programa que les trae información importante que esperamos que los inspire a una mejor calidad de vida para usted y su familia. Cubrimos información sobre los campos de salud, educación, empleo, vivienda y muchos otros temas más que nos afectan como persona y como pueblo. Su hora informativa está aquí todos los sábados de 10 a 11 de la mañana y nos alegramos muchísimo de que estén con nosotros aquí en el día de hoy. Hoy tengo unos invitados especiales que vamos a estar hablando mayormente en inglés, pero esperamos que, ¿verdad?, la información que vamos a traer sea de su agrado y que sea de su ayuda para ustedes. I was just saying that I have two guests with me here today, and that I'm hoping that whatever information you're going to be sharing with us is important, right, and that it possibly help our community. So I want to ask each of you to introduce yourself, tell us your name, where you're originally from, and how long you've been here in Rochester. And I don't know who wants to start.
Do you want to start, Deb?
Sure. My name is Deborah Turner. I'm the Director of Crisis and Referral Services at 211 Lifeline, which is a community program of Goodwill, the Finger Lakes. I originally hail from Jamestown, New York, which is about an hour south of Buffalo. And I have been in Rochester since 2007. I came to go to RIT. I have a bachelor's of psychology. Looking back, going to a tech school for a liberal arts degree maybe wasn't the best choice, but it was a fantastic school, great experiences, opened my eyes to a lot of things. And ever since, I've just loved Rochester and stayed.
Okay. And Deb, where's your family originally from?
Jamestown as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where their family was originally from?
I want to say Salamanca, New York.
Okay. Okay.
We have a family from all over.
Okay. Anyone outside of the United States? I think that's where I'm getting to.
Oh, okay. I know we have some family who came from Sweden. If you don't know this, Jamestown, New York has a high population of Swedish individuals. So
why is that? Do you know?
They all immigrated mostly to Jamestown, New York. And you'll notice in some of our history that there's a lot of like woodworking. So like Jamestown mattress, there was Jamestown furniture for a long time, and they kind of like set up shop for a long time. Nice. And so we have a very high Swedish population over there.
Do you know why your family came to the United States from Sweden?
I don't. I assume that they wanted a better opportunity, better life. I think like most folks who come here to the U.S., just hoping for better.
Okay. Awesome. How about you?
So my story's a little different. Obviously, I have this English accent. I came to the States in 2001. So I finished university. I went to a university called Loughborough in England. I was a soccer coach. I coached the women's soccer team there while I was studying, and as a result of that, I got offered a job working in the States, working in New Jersey and in Long Island, doing some coaching work initially, and came over here straight after college and thought I was going to stay for 3 months, and ended up meeting an American, and here I am.
And the rest was history.
The rest was history.
Awesome. Now, are you the first generation in your family, or has there been other families that have come and established here?
I'm first generation. So
wow.
The rest of my family live in the UK. My dad lives on the Welsh coast. My sister lives in London, and my brother lives in the town where I grew up, which is called Derby, which is right in the centre of England.
Nice. Now, you mentioned earlier before we were on air that you kind of knew me from Horizon.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so
How did you end up there?
So I actually, when I turned 30 and I wanted to go back to school because I thought, I wanted to work on some qualifications. I didn't feel I quite had the qualifications I needed. So went to Nazareth University and got my master's in education. At the time, I was working for an organization called Special Olympics, which is a great organization that's that's kind of located, all over the country, but this was Special Olympics New York. And I'd been there for a while. So after I got my master's in education, I was like, okay, I want to stay in the nonprofit world, but I've got this education degree now. So what am I going to do with it? And so your brother Lewis Perez he'd started a program called Summer Leap and was transitioning into that program, and they were looking for somebody who had the nonprofit background, but also some education background to run the Horizons program, which is based at the Harley School. So kind of found my way into that. That was an amazing experience, an amazing 6 years for me, just to learn about the community that I was, that where I lived. I didn't know much about the community, to be honest. But just spending time kind of working with the children, and it was a phenomenal experience, and really kind of led to this next part in my life.
The Horizon program is awesome. It's for those that don't know about the Horizon program, it's a program that it's a summer program for mostly for inner city kids, kind of to keep them on track for school. And they can start, if they start with Summer Leap, which is preschool, which is what my brother transitioned to, and he just recently retired from that, it could take them up to 9th grade. So they're kind of guaranteed a summer program every summer. They concentrate on math, science, reading, and it really helps kids stay on track.
It does.
For educational. And the other great thing that I love about Horizon is that they teach the children how to swim, which is really awesome, which a lot of kids in the city don't know how to swim. Culturally, a lot of them, especially African American, do not swim, or they're afraid of water, that kind of thing. And it really helps them build their confidence and learn how to swim. So it's a really awesome program. It's so funny, right? It's such a small world. You remembered me, and so I had to bring that up because that's an awesome program. So cool.
Time.
But now you're at Goodwill.
That's right.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, so I run an organization at Goodwill called Goodwill Learning Academy.
Okay.
We're about a year old at this point. There's 38,000 adults in our community, working age adults that don't have their high school education.
Yeah.
And so we've created this program to work specifically with those adults, very much in a one-on-one setting, to help them earn their high school diploma. The reason we want to do that is because the financial data is pretty much obvious. You will make about $10,000 more a year if you get that diploma. It just opens the door to different types of careers. And so we've created this program because we want to get as many people as possible to earn that diploma. And we can talk a little bit more about how we do that. We utilize a slightly different program. But yeah, that's what I do now.
Nice, awesome. I didn't realize how many people need a high school diploma. Yeah. That's a pretty big number.
I mean, it's huge, and the state in general, I think it's 1.9 million, and it just shuts so many doors for people. That if you can just find your way through that door, and often it's really challenging for people as well. Especially as an adult, you have so many things going on in your life that make going back to school difficult and finishing school difficult. Right. The way we do it is that we provide this kind of one-on-one coaching, and we use a program called the NEDP, which is the National External Diploma Program. And what that is, it's most people have heard of the GED. Most people kind of listening into this will have heard of the GED. And the GED leads to the New York State High School Equivalency Diploma. But there's actually 4 pathways to getting your New York State High School Equivalency Diploma. There's not just one. And it's important that people know that there's other options out there for them, because the GED is really tricky. It's 4 exams. The math exam is really hard. Especially if you've been out of it for a while. But the NEDP is 8 life skill based units that you complete in turn. And they're things like health literacy and financial literacy. So instead of having to do Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 and all those sorts of more kind of challenging things, you're going to learn about how to manage a budget. Or let's say you're carrying a credit card balance of $2,000 for a year with an APR of 19.99%. How much interest are you going to pay monthly on that? That's the type of math that gets worked on through the NEDP. And it's...
Wish I had learned that in high school.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like the life skill type of thing because, those are things that they're good. They do this math that they may never use, right, for this test. And usually people, that's where they fail in the math part. Like they'll pass everything else except for the math. But yet this in particular, this program is life skills, things that they're going to be able to use every day in their lives.
That's right. And the other great thing about it is that it's all done online. So we actually have a partnership with an organization called Shift 2. So once an adult has completed more than 12 hours with us and is into the program, we actually give them a laptop that's theirs to keep at the end of the program.
That's nice.
There's this kind of idea of digital equity. That's we promote that, and the people can then work on it at home at their pace. So let's say you're working, it's 9 o'clock at night. You can sit down and do an hour of work on this program. We encourage you to come into the center at least once a week to sit down with a coach. Let's see, where you might be having challenges. But it's pretty much as long as the only thing you have to do is stay in the program. It's, as long as you stay in, it's a guaranteed diploma. You're going to get to the end of it. So that's the pathway that we use for people to get their diploma.
I like the idea of a coach. Tell us a little bit more about that because, not everywhere you go, you're going to actually get someone that's going to work directly with you one-on-one. So tell us why the importance of a coach.
It's super important. And there's been a number of organizations across the country that have tried this kind of coaching method. So CUNY LaGuardia had a coaching method back in, let's say, like 2013, and they showed that when an adult had a coach, they were 20% more likely to finish the program. And that's the big challenge is that so many people drop off. They just can't sustain and get through the program. With a coach, you can kind of start to make it more likely that you will complete. So when somebody comes in, we're going to sit down and talk about what your barriers are. We have a partnership with RTS. We can provide a bus pass if that's the thing that you need to be able to get in. We've been able to provide food and things like that for people. We have a great partnership with Goodwill itself, which we can talk more about. So we've been able to provide people with clothing. It's all about barrier removal. So that's kind of the reason behind a coach. We want to find out exactly where it is that people are struggling and make sure that they get the support they need.
And I imagine, building a relationship with that coach, you become more comfortable, you're willing to share more, you're willing to talk about those personal things that may be keeping you from doing certain things. So I can definitely see the value of having a coach and how that would help folks.
Yeah, I think so. And I think if you think back to your own school days when you're in a classroom with 30 other people, oftentimes you don't get that.
No, you don't.
Get that support.
No, you don't. You don't. I think everybody should have a coach, regardless of what you're
like
doing.
Like a life
right?
coach.
Yeah, like a life coach that could just help you work. Sometimes you just need somebody to bounce things off of, right? Like, this is happening, and I'm not sure how to handle this, and and sometimes just somebody listening, right? And sometimes you don't even have to give the results or the solution to the problem, but just having someone listening to you, you kind of can work through that, right? And so I definitely can see the benefits of the coaching. So tell us a little bit, and I don't know if Deb, if you want to answer this question, but tell us a little bit about Goodwill, because when I think of Goodwill, I think of 311, I think of some of the catering that they do. I think of the Goodwill store, right? It's so funny because my granddaughter the other day, she said, "I'm going shopping with my friend." I said, "Yeah, where are you going?" She said, "We're going to Goodwill." I said, "To Goodwill?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, she calls me Mamita. She's like, "Yeah, Mamita, they got really cool stuff in there, reasonable price. All I have to do is go home and wash it, and I'm good." She said, "I found some name brands." And So I think I ended up giving her some money that day. And I said, well, whatever you don't spend this time around, save it for the next time you go. So she loves Goodwill. She's a Goodwill girl now. Like she goes every weekend.
I am too. It's so dangerous having an employee
I
discount.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So Goodwill, the Finger Lakes, they actually operate the 211 and 988 lines, and people
211.
confuse
I said 311, but it's 211.
Yeah, 311 is the city services.
Yeah, right. You're
Usually people call 311 if they have a trash removal question.
Yeah.
But people do call us at 211 thinking we're 311, and we can connect them to 311. So there's no wrong door.
Okay.
But 211 is information and referral for human services. So people will call us, chat with us, text with us, or search our website for resources they may need. So we get calls about housing resources, shelter, clothing, food, with the summer programs coming up. So something like Horizons, summer camps, youth programs, youth employment programs, that we have a comprehensive database full of resources for our Finger Lakes region. And I just have a team who just validates, like that's their job. Like they contact these organizations at least once a year to check in, make sure, hey, is this information still accurate? Are you expanding services? And we also, keep an eye out. We have the ability to also flag resources. So, someone may call 211 to speak with one of we call them community connectors, who are incredibly empathetic, helpful individuals who are able to help, assess like, okay, you're telling me you need X, Y, and Z. Here are the different options. Oh, you're telling me this organization is out of date. The phone number's wrong, whatever. We can actually flag it in our system, and then that resource team checks it out, make sure it's accurate. So we do a lot. We are 24/7. We are confidential, so anyone can call, chat, or text with us. We do have bilingual counselors as well. If a bilingual counselor is not available, we do have access to translation services. So our whole motto is 211's for everyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter your background, your age, your gender, religion. We are there to help anyone navigate the kinds of resources they need. And also at 211lifeline.org, people can search our directory for free. We've put in a lot of work, in particular around enhancing our database to really cover cultural competency. So something that we've started asking organizations is, okay, well, you're saying you're culturally competent, but what does that really mean?
Right.
Do you also have people that you hire who share the same culture and language?
Yeah.
That way, when someone is calling us and maybe, they're feeling uncomfortable with, working with certain organizations, or they want an organization that they can go to and speak their language to and get the help and services, we have that information in our system. That was something we started during the pandemic because we saw that desperate need for community members to go where they feel comfortable to get access to services.
Correct. Now, you said the Finger Lake region. I mean, that's a big area to cover. How many calls do you guys get, like, on a daily basis, or do you have anything like that, like any kind of data of that sort?
Yeah, it really depends what's going on. But I would say we field depending on the time of day, between 150 to 500 calls a day.
Wow, that's a lot of calls.
Yeah, and so we're there 24/7. So we
I was
got
going to ask, is it a
around the
24-hour and
clock.
around the clock type of?
We don't close. Holidays we're open.
Yeah.
Overnights we have staff there ready to take calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you guys like always looking for people to hire for those positions, or like how does that work? If someone is interested, they're maybe fully bilingual and that's something that kind of calls their attention. Are there opportunities there for hiring?
Yeah, we definitely post bilingual preferred because we do see a need for that. We tend to hire in cohorts. So we try to hire in groupings because we find that the learning experience for them is a lot better.
Yeah.
You have buddies that you go through the training process with. The training takes between 4 to 6 weeks total.
Yeah.
Because we go through a lot of classroom training. We do role playing. They actually get paired with mentors as well, just so like when they start getting ready to take calls, they have someone there to support them, kind of like the coaching.
Yeah.
Making sure that they have a buddy that they can ask those questions to, get feedback, get support, and they also get to monitor and hear calls and how they go.
Right.
So it is a very extensive training process,
Okay.
for sure.
Now, let's say, for example, if someone that speaks Spanish that's listening and saying, that's something I might, is there like a Spanish proficiency test that they have to take? Like, is there a certain level of Spanish that you need to know in order to be able to help? Because, you don't know who's going to call, right?
Yeah, we'll conduct the interview in Spanish.
Oh,
that we have staff
awesome.
members who will step in and do the whole interview in Spanish to make sure, hey, are you fluent?
Yeah.
Is there areas of improvement? And even though they may not be proficient, if we're seeing as time goes on, like maybe they want to become proficient, if they're taking those steps to become proficient, over time we could upgrade them to a bilingual counselor down the road.
Cool. That's cool. Because, a lot of people say, oh, I speak Spanish. But then, when you're in a conversation, it might be a little harder for them. Or they understand more than they can speak, that kind of thing. So, just wondering, because you don't know who's going to call, right? You don't know how you need to respond to those folks. So you got to have some kind of level of. So what is 988? What's that?
Yeah.
And I see 211, but what is 988?
Yes, so 988 is the 3-digit dialing access number to the 1-800-273-TALK, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. At least that's what it used to be called. Then the FCC designated 988 as that new behavioral health crisis hotline. So we are one of the centers. We're a Goodwill operated 988 center, again, 24/7, 365, confidential. And it's really for anyone having a behavioral health crisis. So that could be a range of, I'm not feeling so great today and I need to talk to someone about it. Or I'm having thoughts of suicide and I don't know what to do. Or I'm concerned about someone who may be having thoughts of suicide. So we get a wide range of different individuals that call us around just crisis. I think another big reason for the change to 988 is to make sure that the message of suicide prevention is reaching out before you even have those thoughts, because they grow over time.
I didn't even know that existed. Like, I didn't know about the 988.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling like, okay, we need to educate our community a little more, or maybe expose this a little more, because I had no idea.
And 988 has a whole sub-network of specifically Spanish-speaking centers, specifically to serve Spanish-speaking communities.
Now, who's the person on the other side? Like, is it, I'm assuming they have to have some kind of specialized training to deal with this kind of topic, because it's hard, right? It's hard to hear someone wanting to kill themselves. Like, I'm not sure how I would take that call. I mean, I'll probably rely on God to give me the words and the courage to deal with it. But, I'm nowhere trained to deal with something like that. So what are the qualifications of the person on the other side?
Yeah. So I guess to back up a little bit to my own story. So I graduated from RIT, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, which is very normal. You graduate from college.
Yeah.
And I heard about the crisis hotline, and it was really fascinating. And so I took a job there. You do not have to have a bachelor's degree to join our team. We look for someone with human service experience, call center experience. I remember one of our fantastic employees, she was an accountant, and she did this as like a part-time job because she was just so passionate about the work. And so we look for people who have empathy, who have lived experience. But when you have lived experience, you also have to have enough healing down that road.
Yeah.
So when you're in that call, you're not getting triggered. You're not shutting down, but that you've had enough of your own healing that you are able to handle that call and have that separation.
Right.
So we look for people who, yes, have some call center background, have human service backgrounds, but we do extensive interviewing. We actually do on the interview a role play. Because we don't expect people to know exactly what to do, and that's not what not what we're assessing. We're assessing, can you stay calm, during what could be a stressful interaction?
Yeah.
Do you have those baseline skills? Are you empathetic? Because we can't train empathy.
Right, exactly.
That's something you have. But all the other things, we can train the clinical skills. We can train like how to not get into a power dynamic with someone, that we have an extensive training program. And again, we hire in cohorts again because we've seen the value of that experience. And so they go through that 4 to 6 week training process. And so we equip them with a lot of those skills. But we really we look for people that want to give back and want to help, but also have excellent self-care skills, that understand boundaries, that understand, there's only so much we can control about some of these interactions, but we're there to listen. And the power of empathy literally saves lives.
Yeah, definitely. Again, I didn't know about. So this is something I'm going to have to share with other people for sure.
I'm happy to come back on and talk more.
And we've, I think we have all experienced, people in our lives that just can't handle life. It may not be a suicidal type of thing, but just need somebody to talk to, or just have a lot going on, which is usually the case, right? There's multiple things happening in their lives all at once. And, this might be a good resource for them. So definitely something that I want to share with other folks. How do you help people get their diplomas in adults? Let's go back to your program.
Do you mind if I just kind of just take us back a little bit? I think it's really important for people to understand that both the programs that Deb and I run, they are supported by the people that are donating clothing to Goodwill. I mean, the mission, the community programs that we run are directly supported by donations. So when those clothes are sold in stores, it's the proceeds from those clothes that are supporting our programs. And I think sometimes people don't see that. They don't see that connection. So they hear about, they see Goodwill as a clothing store, or as 211, 988 GLA. They don't see the connection. But I do think it's important for people to understand that's exactly what happens. When you're donating clothes, you're helping somebody get that high school diploma. That's
Let me go back to that as well, because maybe walk us through a donation. Like, how do you go about that? Because not so long ago, I'd emptied out my closet. There was a bunch of stuff that didn't fit me. I tried to donate it to other organizations, but they had a specific day that I had to go at a specific time, and I just didn't have time to schedule that. And so finally, I said to my daughter, I said, you know what? Let's just go to Goodwill and just take. Actually, I went to donate it to an organization that service mostly women. And the person there said, if you take it to Goodwill, they'll take it, because we give our women here stipends to go to Goodwill, to purchase things that they might need, like for an interview or something like that. And I was like, okay, because I had never really donated to Goodwill. And sure enough, I went to the one on Clinton, drove through the back. They took it out of my car and took it inside, and that was the end of that. I was like, okay, this was easy. So definitely something that, when I go to donate again, I'll definitely do it that way. But it's good to know, right, that what connection that has with the services that you're providing, because, now I'm more clean to go and donate to Goodwill versus other places that I normally would do, right? Or put clothes in a box somewhere or something like that. So tell us about that. Like, tell us about, the different locations that they can go and do that. Yeah. What are their times? That kind of thing.
It definitely varies. You can look up all the times on our website, Goodwill the Finger Lakes. I wish I could speak about all the stores, but there's a lot of them. I think what's incredible is that 90 cents of every dollar gets reinvested back into our community programs. And I mean, those donation attendants, the staff there, the retail staff, it is hard work. They work
can
very
imagine.
hard to process those goods, to get them on the floor. We don't head up retail. I totally respect it's a ginormous operation.
Yeah.
Thank you. His name's Dave Weisner. He's the VP over there. But yeah, I mean, just getting a glance, it's a lot of work to price them, to get them out on the floor, to get those, like when you round up. So when you go purchase, they ask, would you like to round up to benefit our community programs?
Gotcha.
Those cents get reinvested back into our community programs like Robin's in my program. I don't know if that was exactly addressing what you wanted.
No, and to know that it's easy, right? That you pull up in your car, someone comes out, they kind of grab it from your trunk or wherever it is, and that's it. You don't even have to carry it in or anything. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I had drove around with these clothes in my car for like a week, just trying to figure out, okay, where can I leave it? And there were really nice gowns and things, that I knew that someone could truly benefit from it. And then finally I said, you know what, let's just when I went to the one location, they said, no, take it to Goodwill. We give our women stipends and they're able to go there and purchase stuff for different things. And I know that they have, special occasions where they have to dress up and things like that. And so it made it very easy. And I was like, okay, so now I know what to do from moving forward.
Yeah.
Because it was just easy. Everywhere else I had to make an appointment, or they just wouldn't take it, like they didn't have, which I understand, it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, this has become obviously part of your programming where you have people, you have warehouses, people to sort all these things out. But when you start collecting things, it's hard to sort them out and get them ready or whatever.
It's an entire operation.
So I understand why the other places didn't want to take them. The one place I went and they said, no, we only take it on this day of the week. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to come back. And it just made it really complicated for me. So I'm just saying that the Goodwill is easy to donate. You can just go and drive up and that's it.
Absolutely. And there's been a little bit of reimagining with our Good Neighbor program. So there's actually a shift to work on what's called a bulk order system. So that's fairly new, that's getting underway at Goodwill, where smaller organizations it takes a lot of work to process donations, check them out. Are they in good condition? Can we put them on the floor? Can't we? But that something we want to do is actually be able to empower these smaller organizations by doing bulk orders of items. So even when people donate to us, if after a certain time they don't sell, which is a lot of stuff, we can then bulk order, send that to a smaller organization so they're not having to fully process, because we already have a very smooth operation in place, and it takes a lot to keep it smooth.
How many stores do we have in the Rochester area?
Oh Lord, I'm trying to remember all of them.
I want to say we're at 11 now.
11. Okay. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We're also looking to open up a Ithaca location very soon as well.
Okay.
We just opened a beautiful one in Greece at the mall. It's tell your daughter to go there.
I'll have to let her. I'll have to let her know.
It's huge. Oh my gosh, it's huge.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice. So let's go back to the program, because I want to make sure that we cover everything that we wanted to talk about. You mentioned the NEDP,
yeah.
And it stood for?
It's the National External Diploma Program.
Okay.
So
talk to us a little bit more about that, because that's the first time I hear this as well.
I mean, would it be helpful if I kind of describe the four different programs? So, so the one that everybody's heard of is the GED.
Right.
That's you take 4 tests. When you pass those 4 tests, you get your New York State high school equivalency diploma.
Yeah.
The math's a little tricky.
Yeah. And you literally prepare for those 4 tests.
You prepare for those 4 tests.
Everything that you're doing is preparing for that.
That's right.
Those tests. Yeah.
So then the state of New York has a second pathway called the Regents pathway, where if you passed a Regents exam while you're in high school. Let's say you passed the Algebra Regents exam. That can count as your math GED test. So, you can actually shorten the window to actually getting your diploma. The third pathway is the Pathways program. And they are held through a number of community colleges, across the state. And that is where you enter an associate's program. Without your high school diploma, you complete the first 24 credits of your associate's diploma, and you get your high school diploma at the same time. Great, it's a great option for people, but it does assume that you're college ready. But again, all three are great options for specific people. The NEDP is this fourth pathway that, as you said, not many people have heard of, and it is. We're registered with the New York State Education Department to provide it. There's a number of organizations, and we're not the only organization in town that provides it. Okay. But it's 8 units of study, and completed at your own pace. You complete it on a computer. You come in, you meet with a coach. We work with you through that unit. So if there's a part that you're struggling with that you just can't get, we'll do what's called parallel teaching. We'll create mini lessons and actually work with the student on the area that they're struggling with until they're able to work their way through it. Okay. So it's just a different style of kind of administering this type of program. There's no kind of testing element to it. The only testing that we do is at the start. Is we need to find out where your math, your reading skills are. Typically, if they come in and they're not quite where they need to be, we will spend some time with people. Again, building out lessons, some different kind of content areas to help people get to the place where they need to be so that they can start the program. Yeah. And I would say for about 75% of the people, that's the case. They need a little bit of support. Yeah. But usually, people make progress, and when you're able to kind of have that kind of one-on-one teaching or that one-on-one coaching, you can make a lot quicker progress with people than they would in a typical classroom environment, because we can really target where your weaknesses are. We can see where your weaknesses are, and we can work on those specific things. Yeah. So it's just it's a great. We've only been in operation here. We had our first graduate last week. Okay. So got his high school education and immediately applied for a job at a bank. So it just, you can see almost immediately it just made the world slightly bigger for that person. We look to have great partnerships with other adult ed providers in town. We want people to go to, if college is right for them, we want them to be able to go there afterwards if that's what they want to do. If they want to go and do a workforce development program, REOC, Oasis, we want to get them into those programs too, because we want people to get the skills they need so they can be upwardly mobile in this economy. Yeah. So that's what we do. Should I let people know how they can find us? Yes, please. So the fastest way is to go to our website, which is www.excelcenterny.org. And I'm guessing on the YouTube channel we can put that in the notes. Or people can call Goodwill directly, which is 585-232-1111. And that's the kind of fastest way to get hold of us. That's it.
What's the age? Like, what are the, besides not having a high school diploma, what are some of the other qualifications? Do they have to be a certain age group? Like,
that's a really
how does that work?
That's a great question. Initially you can do the NEDP at any age over the age of 18. Okay. We've typically kind of focused on that 21 plus age group, because if people can still go back to school and finish their high school diploma, we encourage you to do that. If that's an option for you. Obviously at 21, that's the cutoff. You can no longer go to high school, and so at that point, we would take them. We have adults in their 70s. We have adults in their early 20s. Yeah. We have a lot of people. I would say the average age is around about 35. So it's just people who just said, I've always wanted this. It's always been something that I know I needed to go and fix. Yeah. And I just haven't had the time to do it, or life has just happened. There's absolutely no judgment at all. You know, we're all kind of starting from wherever we're starting in life, and so, you know, if we can help people get on that, you know, really kind of reach up and grab that next rung of the ladder, then that's what we want to do.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of places of employment require at least a high school diploma. Like, that's the bare minimum that you could have, right, to be able to work somewhere, and you have to show proof that you have that.
Yeah.
You know, for some folks it's hard because they don't have that. I know, so I do childcare for Ibedo, and I teach the CDA class, which is a child development class for REOC. You know, and in order to work at Ibedo or to come to my class at REOC, you have to have at least a high school diploma. And so some people, you know, they want to go into childcare, or, you know, maybe they want to open their own childcare at home or something like that. But in order to get the CDA, they have to have their high school diploma. You know, the other thing that I find is, you know, people's, like with the CDA class, for example, you know, they have to do a lot of writing. And so if people are not used to writing, you know, and they don't have a high school diploma, it makes it even harder, right?
Yeah.
To be able to do that. So I see the value of having a high school diploma. Like, a lot of places now, that's the minimum that they require. Like,
I think just making sure that people also have the digital literacy skills. You know, like just being able to use a computer. I mean, we've actually also incorporated an AI course into our program, because you know, artificial intelligence is growing whether we like it or not, and knowing how to utilize it and use it as a tool is so important. You know, so we have our adults take an artificial intelligence course so that they understand what it is and how to use it.
Which is the way of the future.
I mean, we don't know what it's going to look like, but people should understand it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I know with the computer, it's another issue with the students that I have. You know, I'm glad that you guys are incorporating something when it comes to technology, because, you know, we often think that everybody knows computer, but they don't. You know, and so in my class, students have to save documents. We give them a flash drive. You know, there's a certain font that they have to use. They have to be double spaced. You know, all these different things. Certain things have to be bolded. You know, all these different things that they're like, I don't know how to do that. You know, I don't know how to do that. So I have to spend some of my classroom time in teaching them how to do that. You know, and it's really incredible. And like you said, you know, once people have given that opportunity, you know, the change in them, right? Because I can see their very first writing, you know, where I had to write a lot of red marks on their paper, and now it's almost like it's perfect, right? It's perfect, you know, hardly any errors there or anything like that. Maybe a comma here or there or something like that, but nothing like when they first started, you know. And so the technology part, I think, is really important too. And most places, you got to use some type of technology. Right? Time cards, you know, a lot of the pay system now is through technology. I mean, you have to go and look at your time card through a computer, or, you know, request time off through a computer. I mean, all these different things, right, that we don't think about, that people are going to need.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's changing. It's changing even quicker than we can imagine as well. I mean, look at my own children now are using, for their own jobs, they're using apps on their phones you know, to submit information to school, to the employer, and it's just it's certainly people, if they don't have, you know, basic levels of digital literacy, I think it's really challenging, and that's why we've really kind of leaned on that. So we talked a little bit about, you know, the laptop for our students. We were like, this, you know, a lot of people don't have access to computers in their home, so,
and they don't have a computer,
right? And so if you know. We want you to stay in the program, obviously. We want you to finish. So here's a laptop, because this will be a tool that you're going to have to utilize once you stop working with us.
Absolutely. Now, for the program, I mean, you know, you said people have a coach. It sounds like it's very individualized for each person, depending where they are when they first take that test, to see, you know, where they are with the level of reading and math and those type of things. Is some of the instructors or some of the coaches also speak Spanish? So if someone that spoke Spanish, they want to be part of this program, will there be language access for that?
So that is one of the weaknesses of the program right now, Ida. If I'm honest, like we don't have that yet. I mean, we're a 2 staff member team at the moment, but it is something that we see we need to something we need to kind of we need to work towards. Having the one-on-one coaching for people that have struggled with English has helped, because it's meant that we could move a little slower with people.
Right.
But I do recognise that as a weakness of the program.
Yeah. So how do you plan to remedy that?
I mean, the big thing is we need to grow. I mean, we're a 2-man team, and as we grow, the thing is to look for bilingual instructors who can help support that work. Our goal is to we have a couple of goals. I mean, you heard earlier that I mentioned it. Our website is excelcenterny.org, and people might wonder why that is not goodwilllearningacademy.org. The Excel Center is another project that we're also working on, and we have kind of like a vision to become an Excel Center in the future. To do that, we're going to need many more staff.
Yeah.
And that's we are looking at we're looking at getting to about 100 people over the next couple of years in terms of the student numbers that we serve. To do that, we'd need about 5 educators. And part of that education team, obviously, we would need bilingual staff to help support us.
So if there's anyone out there that's fully bilingual that may be interested in, in the future, once
absolutely, we'd love to meet
there,
them.
Definitely. Because there's a lot of people out there that are sometimes retired and just want to be able to do something, especially in the education field. So that would be great. Anything else you want to share about Goodwill itself and the other services? Because you guys do a lot there. I've been there. I've been to the one on the big building on South Clinton, and it's you guys got a lot of stuff going on there. So tell us a little bit about some of the other services that you guys provide.
Yeah, so we also have vision services, so that helps people navigate vision loss in the world. We are co-located with Flom Institute through the University of Rochester.
Yep. I think they came here once for an interview when they were launching that. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, we do a lot. We also have a manufacturing part of Goodwill. People don't always know that, where we employ individuals with visual impairments or other barriers to employment. We also have a business services team, which very much has a very similar goal of employing individuals who have blind or visual impairments, so they can keep working, keep providing for their families. So a lot of our, I guess, our revenue generating parts of our organization also provide that service to our workforce. And we like to say, we're more than a store.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Now, going back to the students, is there a cost at all for these students? Like, is this part of your program? Like, the scholarship is already paid for? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, there's no cost at all.
No cost.
I mean, and just, again, coming back to this idea of Goodwill as a social enterprise, it's the retail clothes sales that supports the organisation, grants and things like that. There's no cost for students to be able to participate at all.
And you said you just had one person graduate from the program, meaning that everybody's going to be at their own pace, like you said. So it's not like this big graduating class at the end. Is everybody's gonna get there when they get there, when they're ready.
That's right. I mean, I think, and he was he was exceptional in that he could get through it in 6 months. I know he was working at it at the weekends when he wasn't working. Yeah. We'll have other students who will take a couple of years to finish, and that's fine too. You'll work on it at your own pace. Yeah. I think if you were really motivated and your skills were where they needed to be, you'd probably get through it in 50 hours. But I think other adults might take 200 hours to finish it. And that's just the nature of the program. But the great thing is you can start, and then you can, if you need to take 2 or 3 weeks because life's happening, you can stop for a couple of weeks, but your work doesn't go away. It It just stops wherever you stopped.
Right.
So you don't lose any of that work that you've already done.
So are these like modules that they'll do on a computer? Because, you said a lot of it is on the computer. So is like their modules that they have to complete. So as they complete different modules, they'll just keep moving forward.
That's exactly right. And
Okay.
the modules are life-based. So let's take the first one is called health literacy. Right. So you're learning about managing your own health and how to advocate for your own health. But at the same time, you're also studying literacy. You're also reading. You're reading for comprehension. One of the other modules is called financial literacy. So again, you're building a budget. You're building a budget for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's part of the unit. So none of the units really kind of exist outside of the student. They're kind of all based around the student's own life. Over the course of the program, you're going to build a resume. You're going to write a cover letter. All really important things that you're going to need. So actually, when you do leave, you've got this
tools,
this toolkit. Yeah. So it's very much kind of unit based. They actually call them competency areas, but I find that a bit confusing. So it's best just to see it as I have 8 units to finish. I can complete them at my own pace. They're going to help me with my life, and when I finish, I get my high school equivalency diploma.
Now, I know some people some people do really well with modules through a computer, that kind of thing. But what about those that just... they need a live class?
So it's a great question, and that's exactly why we say to all of our adults, you need to come in at least once a week, even if you're super comfortable. So we have some adults who come to the center to do the work, and they don't do it at home. So they'll come in, they'll get support from the coach, and they'll work through it in a very different way than somebody who feels more comfortable just doing it at home. What the statistics that NEB has are really kind of interesting. When you get through the first 2 units, you have a 97% chance of finishing the course.
Wow. So it's those 2 units.
It's those first 2 units. That's right. You've got because that's when people drop out, isn't it? Like it's right at the start.
No, that's true. That's true.
You kind of come in, you're excited, and you're like, I'm going to do this thing, and then it's actually hard, and you're like, wow, that seems a long way away finishing. So and you start to make these deals, and slowly you don't do it.
Yeah. And I also like the idea that if someone needs to stop for whatever reason, like you said, life happens, which, I see that all the time with my students, but they're able to stop and continue. So it's not like, okay, you're out, you can't come back, or you got to wait a year, whatever whatever rules some places have. But there they can just stop and then just come back when they're ready and continue on until they finish it, which is pretty cool. And I like the fact that they do get a computer at the end. So that's always helpful as well. And that there's no cost to it, right? And you could work at your own pace, and you get there's a lot of good components to it, right? That you don't normally get in other programs, like having the personal coach, being able to go there once a week, even though you're doing things online, getting a computer, almost individualizing the lesson plans for you or the curriculum for you. All of those things are really important and pretty cool. Nice. Anything else that you want to share before we go?
We're happy to come back if you wanted to talk more or have more follow-up questions, or maybe your viewers have more questions.
Definitely when you're ready to hire more Latinos or bilingual people, and they don't necessarily have to be Latinos, but definitely would like to know more about that, because there might be some people out there listening that might be interested. And definitely share more about the 988, because that I did not know.
That's a whole other big conversation. Happy to have it.
Definitely would want you back to talk about that. Just about that within itself, because people need to know about those type of resources that are out there. So I like to end the show by asking if there's a phrase or a saying that you listened to or heard growing up that still resonates with you today. And Deb, do you have one? Did you think of one?
I have one, but it's from my mom, so it's probably a little inappropriate. So
Okay.
I will hold
Let's
on
try
to
it.
that
Let's
one.
try it.
You want me to say it? My mom's a nurse, and so she likes to joke, like, if you've got something I haven't seen, I'm probably gonna...
I could see that. I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah. My mom has a wild life. Just, oh my goodness.
Sounds like fun.
She's fun. She's a lot of fun. She's definitely a spitfire. Like her midlife crisis was going to trucking school to learn how to be a trucker.
What?
And so she did that for a few years. And then she's like, I'm going to go back to nursing in a maximum security prison.
Oh my goodness.
She's just...
Not in a hospital, but in a...
I am very happy to report, though.
She's adventurous.
She's very adventurous. She has decided, though, like, I'm just going to do part-time at assisted living. And I'm like, thank you.
Right?
My
mom is
anxiety
safe.
feels
She's
better.
safe.
Yeah. She's a spitfire.
That's too funny. How about you?
So when I was growing up, I was always everywhere. I lived in Finland. I was in Russia for a while.
Wow.
I ended up living in the States. Like I just found the world kind of endlessly interesting. One of my friends once said to me, Rob, don't leave fun to find fun. And I was like, I didn't understand it, but it was just like that idea of sometimes just slow down and appreciate what's around you rather than always looking for the next thing.
Yeah. I like that one. That's really
a good
cool.
one.
Yeah. I always like to ask, that question because in the Latino culture, we can give you a whole life lesson just with phrases alone, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of our thing. And I also like to ask the question of where you're originally from, because we often think that we're very different and we're not, right? Mm-hmm. We all came here looking for a new opportunity, a lot of times for work, right? Or a lot of times for education. Some people did it following love, to know that there's a whole community from where you're from people that come from Sweden. So, it's really always cool to kind of hear where people came from and how they ended up here and how they ended up here in Rochester, right? Because people that live in Rochester always complain about Rochester, but then other people come and fall in love with it. And so it's always interesting for me to ask that question and know why people are here, right? And thank you both for being with us here today.
Thank you.
Definitely a cool information about Goodwill. Definitely something to keep in mind, right? That every time we donate something to Goodwill, it's also supporting the programs that you guys are being able to offer that are completely free to people in our community. That you're definitely conscious of, language access for those that need it, which we appreciate, right? And so thank you both for being here with us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Gracias a todos por acompañarnos en esta mañana. Lo esperamos nuevamente el próximo sábado de 10 a 11 de la mañana en Poder 97.1 FM, la única estación radial latina con dueños y operados por latinos, por la comunidad, para la comunidad. Esto ha sido su hora informativa, trayendo información importante que nos inspira a una mejor calidad de vida. Que pasen una linda semana. Hasta la próxima, mi gente.